In March 2024, a video leaked from inside a Tehran hotel. It showed a wedding with hundreds of guests. The women were in designer gowns, hair uncovered, drinking champagne, and dancing in mixed company. The room was estimated to have cost over $1 billion tomans for a single night. There would have been nothing unusual about this, except for the fact that the father of the bride was Ali Shamkhani, a man who had spent decades enforcing the Islamic codes his own guests were breaking that night. But outside that hotel, the average Iranian salary had lost 80% of its value in 10 years, and millions had been pushed below the poverty line. They said it was because of the sanctions, but how come the sanctions didn't stop them from serving edible gold ice cream during the wedding ceremony of Shamkhani's daughter? This is the story of how Iran's elite built an entire parallel economy inside a country the world was trying to cut off, and what it tells us about the oldest truth in geopolitics. Sanctions punish countries, but they rarely touch the people who run them. Tehran has two cities, and they share a map, but that's where it ends. In the north, in neighborhoods called Alahai and Zafrania, areas Iranians called their Beverly Hills. In 2011, at the height of Obama-era sanctions, Tehran was buying more Porsches per capita than any other city in the Middle East. And it's not a contradiction. It is actually the system working exactly as designed. It's not just for the people it was supposed to protect. The people who it protects were the Agazades. In Persian, it means noble born. Today, ordinary Iranians say the word with acid. They are the children of the ruling class, a dynasty that replaced the Shah in 1979. And quietly built an empire that would have made him uncomfortable. Take the son of a former Iranian ambassador, Sasha Sobhani, for example. He maintained a public Instagram account with 2.6 million followers, where he flaunts Ferraris, Dom Perignon, and women. When ordinary Iranians criticized him, he told them to simply drop dead. Sasha was not the exception. He was the template. To understand how wealth survives in a sanctioned economy, you need one word: Bonyad. Officially, it means a charitable foundation. In reality, the Bonyads are the skeleton of Iran's shadow economy, which are tax-exempt, government-connected corporations that operate entirely outside public oversight. The largest is called Bonyad Mostazafan, the Foundation of the Oppressed. It controls 160 companies across different industries, including construction, banking, mining, and energy. Its budget is exempt from taxation by decree of the Supreme Leader, and it has never published a public account. Then there is the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Officially, its military body. Functionally, it is one of the largest commercial conglomerates in Iran. By 2010, it controlled over 800 registered companies. And when Western films like Shell and Total were forced to exit Iran after sanctions, the IRGC was handed their contracts. In this sense, the sanctions were a transfer of wealth from the international market to the IRGC's hands. By 2025, the US Treasury had sanctioned more than 875 individuals, vessels, and aircrafts in a single year connected to Iran's evasion networks. Ghost tankers turned off their AIS tracking signals in international waters. When a country is in crisis, such as when inflation runs at 40%, or when the currency is in freefall, the ultra-wealthy do not hide their money, they display it. This is not arrogance. It is actually an ancient psychological mechanism. In times of instability, status signaling intensifies. When the world feels dangerous and uncontrollable, humans reach for the most undeniable signals of security. The Birkin, the Ferrari, or the penthouse built on a fault line in a city under 100 sanctions. These are not purchases. Rather, they are announcements declaring, "I am above what is happening outside." A Tehran sociologist described it precisely. The Agazadehs post their wealth not despite the crisis, but because of it. Simply because the crisis is a backdrop that makes the display meaningful. Without the poverty visible through the window, the chandelier inside loses half its power. So the worse things get for everyone else, the louder the wealth signal has to be. So how, precisely, does wealth survive in a country the world is trying to economically strangle? The answer is not one method. It is 5, each layered and interlocked, and decades in the making. The first is cryptocurrency. Iran's crypto economy hit 7.8 billion in 2025. IRGC-linked wallets accounted for more than half of all crypto inflows in the final quarter of that year alone. With over 3 billion received through addresses, the US Treasury had already flagged. But the IRGC didn't just use crypto, it built its own exchange infrastructure. One of such exchanges is ZSEX, which processed 1 billion in IRGC-linked funds. And guess what? This amount accounted for 87% of its total transaction volume at peak. Now, the beauty of crypto for sanctions evasion is architectural. Cross-chain bridges, decentralized changes, and stable coins like USDT create a layering system that no single jurisdiction can track. Iran's central bank accumulated at least 507 million in USDT in 2025 to stabilize a country that had already lost 96% of its value against the dollar. The second is gold and luxury assets. Gold does not have a nationality and so cannot be sanctioned. A kilo of gold moved through Dubai's free trade zone asks no questions and answers to no compliance officer. Iranian networks have used trade-based money laundering, over-invoicing gold shipments from African mines to wash sanctioned cash, then converting the proceeds into Dubai real estate. Beyond gold, art, rare watches, and luxury goods serve the same function. They are portable, opaque, and can be stored in a Geneva free port for decades and sold through an anonymous auction house with a single transaction touching a sanctioned financial system. The third is the UAE. Dubai is not just a city. For Iran's elite, it is a financial exit door. Iranian families have used the UAE's property market, its business registration system, and its historically light enforcement of beneficial ownership rules to park wealth in plain sight. UAE law, until very recently, only required disclosure of ownership stakes above 25%, meaning a family could control a company through a 24% stake, plus nominees, and remain legally invisible. The US Treasury has documented what it calls a shadow banking network, operating outside of the UAE. This involves Iranian funds and crypto flows laundered through overseas entities. The fourth is the Ghost Fleet. Iran operates one of the world's most sophisticated shadow shipping networks. Aging tankers sail under the flags of convenience with their AIS tracking transponders switched off in international waters. They rendezvous with other vessels at sea, transferring oil and ship-to-ship operations that happen in international waters beyond any single jurisdiction's enforcement. The oil arrives in East Asia with Malaysian or Emirati documentation. The money arrives in the IRGC's accounts through a chain of front companies that traces back to nothing. The fifth and most durable is the passport. The wealthiest Iranians are not fully in Iran. Their children hold British passports, Canadian residency, and Emirates IDs. Their properties are registered in Cyprus and the British Virgin Islands. Their money moves through Singapore, not because Singapore is corrupt, but because Singapore is efficient, legally precise, and difficult to pressure. This exit infrastructure was built long before any crisis arrived. The private school enrollment in London, The Dubai apartment and the numbered account. These were not panic moves. These were decade-long preparations made by families who understood with total clarity that their country's stability was a temporary condition. The playbook is not secret. It is not even particularly new. It is simply invisible to the people it is designed to remain invisible to. Sanctions were designed as a precision weapon, a way to pressure governments without destroying the people living under them. However, 4 decades of evidence from Iran suggest something more complicated. The middle class, the backbone of every stable civil society since Aristotle first described it, shrank by 28 percentage points. And an entire generation grew up in an economy designed to fail them. But at the top sits the untaxed and largely untouched. The lesson here is not about Iran. It is about the power and the oldest truth in any economy under pressure. The rules are written for everyone. The exits are built for a few. Speaking of few, only one empire has managed to say no to an offer that even the most rational person would say yes to. Ready to find out?